The silence of deep space was broken by a single transmission. Unknown vessel detected entering the Orion frontier. Normally, such a report wouldn't even reach the Galactic Council. Merchant ships crossed borders every hour. Patrol cruisers wandered between sectors every day. But this signal was different. The automated defense satellites identified only one object. One ship. No escort. No fleet. No diplomatic beacon. No recognizable alien design. Within seconds, every military AI across the frontier reached the exact same conclusion. Threat level, impossible. The alert spread through hundreds of star systems. Red alert. Across the massive command chamber of the Galactic Council, ambassadors stared at the holographic projection floating above the central table. The ship looked strangely simple. Dark metallic armor. No decorative fins. No glowing engines. No royal markings. Just sharp angles and overwhelming purpose. It looked less like a spacecraft, and more like a weapon that happened to fly. Council Admiral Xerox frowned. Run the database again. The AI answered instantly. No match. Search forgotten civilizations. No match. Ancient empires? No match. A strange silence filled the chamber. Finally, the oldest historian among the council slowly stood. His scales had turned silver with age. His voice trembled. I have seen this design before. Every eye turned toward him. He enlarged an ancient archive over 5,000 years old. A faded image appeared. It showed burning planets, destroyed fleets, and one black warship drifting silently through the wreckage. The label underneath contained only 2 words. Human vessel. The room instantly became quiet. Several younger ambassadors laughed nervously. Impossible. Humans disappeared centuries ago. They isolated themselves behind the soul barrier. They abandoned galactic politics. The historian slowly shook his head. No. They abandoned us. No one replied. Because everyone knew the forgotten history. Long ago, humanity had briefly joined the Galactic Alliance. They had shared technology, protected colonies, stopped pirate empires, saved countless civilizations. And how were they rewarded? Suspicion. Sanctions. Eventually the galaxy decided humans had become too powerful. Trade was cut. Diplomatic ties collapsed. Human space sealed itself behind massive quantum gates. For over 300 years, not a single human ship had crossed into galactic territory. Until today, the room suddenly flashed crimson. The AI interrupted. Unknown vessel continues advancing. Speed unchanged. Course unchanged. No communications. Council President Valera whispered, "How large is the fleet behind it?" The AI answered, "There is no fleet. Only one ship." That answer somehow terrified everyone even more. Because no civilization would send a single battleship into Council-controlled territory. Thus, it didn't need support. Thousands of light-years away, inside the mysterious vessel, everything felt strangely peaceful. No alarms. No panic. Crew members calmly monitored their stations. Young officers exchanged quiet conversations. Engineers drank coffee while checking reactor output. At the center of the bridge stood Captain Elias Kane. His gray uniform carried no medals. No unnecessary decorations. Only one small symbol. He looked through the massive observation window as stars stretched endlessly before him. Status. Navigation Officer Mira answered calmly. Crossing Council territory in 12 minutes. Expected interception? Guaranteed. Captain Kane smiled slightly. As planned. Another officer looked confused. Sir, intelligence predicts they'll mobilize thousands of ships. I know. No reinforcements are coming? Captain Kane slowly folded his hands behind his back. We are the reinforcements. Several rookie officers exchanged uncertain glances. Even after years of service, they still weren't used to human confidence. A communications officer suddenly spoke. Captain, we're receiving emergency military broadcasts. He activated the speakers. Every channel repeated the same message. All fleets report immediately. Civilian traffic evacuate. Unknown human warship approaching. Captain Kane quietly listened before turning the transmission off. They're afraid. Lieutenant Mira asked. Shouldn't we reassure them? Captain Kane looked toward the distant stars. They wouldn't believe us. Before anyone could answer, the ship's sensors detected something enormous. Hundreds, then thousands, of galactic warships emerging from hyperspace. Every known species had answered the red alert. An entire galaxy had come to stop. Human warship. The bridge of the human warship remained eerily calm. Outside the reinforced viewport, hyperspace ruptured again and again as thousands of alien vessels arrived in perfect military formation. Battleships stretched across the stars, carriers released fighter swarms, and massive defense platforms powered up planet-cracking weapons. Lieutenant Mira watched the tactical display fill with red markers. Enemy contacts, 1,000. The number climbed almost instantly. 3,000. 5,000, Captain. Not a single member of the human crew raised their voice. Captain Elias Kane simply nodded. Maintain course. The helmsman acknowledged. Course maintained. The alien fleets couldn't understand what they were seeing. Across the command deck of the galactic flagship Dominion Spear, Supreme Admiral Xerox stared at the tactical map in disbelief. Has the human ship changed speed? No, Admiral. Changed heading? No. Raised shields? No. Targeted any of our ships? No. The bridge fell silent. The human vessel wasn't acting like an invading force. It wasn't behaving like a diplomat either. It simply kept flying forward, as if the thousands of warships surrounding it didn't exist. That confidence unsettled every experienced commander. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, panic spread among the ambassadors. They're provoking us. No civilization would ignore 5,000 warships. They must have hidden reinforcements. Military analysts searched every nearby star system. Deep scans, quantum scans, gravitic scans, dark matter scans. Nothing. Only one human warship. President Valera frowned. Impossible. The elderly historian spoke quietly. I warned you. Several ambassadors turned toward him. You've never fought humans. You've only heard stories. They don't bluff. Captain Kane finally spoke. Distance to Council blockade? 30,000 kilometers. Open a communication channel. The bridge officer transmitted on every known military frequency. Within seconds, the image of Captain Kane appeared on thousands of alien command bridges simultaneously. He stood calmly with his hands behind his back. No armor. No visible weapons. Only quiet confidence. This is Captain Elias Kane of the Earth Defense Fleet. I request peaceful passage through Council territory. The Council erupted with angry voices. Admiral Xerox stepped forward. You entered restricted military space without permission. You have ignored every warning. You are surrounded. Captain Kane nodded politely. I noticed. His calm response irritated several commanders. You will stop your engines immediately. No. You refuse a lawful military order? I refuse unnecessary delays. Gasps echoed across every command center. One ambassador slammed a fist onto the council table. Arrogant human. Captain Kane's expression never changed. I have no hostile intentions. My destination lies beyond your territory. Allow us to continue. Admiral Xerox narrowed his eyes. And if we refuse? For the first time, Captain Kane hesitated. Not because he was afraid, but because he chose his words carefully. Then events will unfold that neither of us wants. The transmission ended. Silence consumed every bridge. One sentence echoed in everyone's mind. Neither of us wants. Was it a threat? Or a warning? No one knew. Meanwhile, hidden deep inside the human vessel, enormous armored doors slowly opened. Rows upon rows of massive machines stood inside. Not soldiers. Not tanks. Something far more advanced. Autonomous combat platforms. Each one stood over 15 meters tall. Their optical sensors activated one by one. Blue lights illuminated the dark hangar. An engineering officer looked toward the machines. Combat Legion is awake. Another technician checked the diagnostics. All units report 100% readiness. Yet Captain Kane had issued no deployment order. The machines simply waited. Back aboard the galactic flagship, intelligence officers continued examining the mysterious vessel. One young analyst suddenly froze. "Admiral, what is it?" "I'm detecting energy fluctuations." "Main weapons?" "No." "Shield generators?" "No." The analyst zoomed in on the human ship. His face turned pale. "The entire hull is generating energy." The bridge erupted in confusion. How can armor generate power? Before anyone could answer, another officer shouted, "We've identified the metal." "What is it?" The officer swallowed hard. "It matches fragments recovered from the Battle of Vega." The room went silent. Everyone knew that battle. 300 years earlier, an unknown material had survived the explosion of an entire star. Scientists across the galaxy had failed to reproduce it. Now, an entire warship had been built from it. Admiral Zirok finally made his decision. Deploy the first interception fleet. Over 300 battleships accelerated toward the lone human vessel. Weapons locked. Missiles armed. Fighter wings launched. On the bridge of the human ship, Lieutenant Mira looked at the tactical display. "They're moving." Captain Kane folded his arms. "Still no firing solutions. They're trying to intimidate us." "And if they attack, sir?" Captain Kane looked at the stars beyond the approaching fleet. Then he gave an order so calm that it chilled everyone on the bridge. "Prepare defensive protocol." He paused. "But do not fire unless there is absolutely no other choice." As the distance between the fleets rapidly closed, every sensor in the galaxy focused on the lone human warship. The next few minutes would decide whether peace survived, or whether one ship was about to remind the galaxy why humanity had once become a legend. A deafening silence settled over the battlefield. Thousands of alien warships floated in perfect formation, their weapons locked on a single target. Plasma cannons glowed, missile bays opened, and energy lances charged to full power. Yet the lone human warship continued forward at the exact same speed. Not accelerating. Not slowing down. Not turning. Captain Elias Kane stood motionless on the bridge, watching the stars beyond the alien blockade. Lieutenant Mira broke the silence. "First interception fleet is within 10,000 kilometers." Captain Kane nodded. "Maintain heading." On the bridge of the galactic flagship, Supreme Admiral Zirok clenched his fists. "They're forcing our hand." His tactical officer looked uncertain. "Admiral, they still haven't powered their weapons." "That doesn't matter. Their refusal to stop is an act of aggression." Another officer interrupted. "Sir, these civilian colonies across 6 sectors are watching this live." Indeed, the entire galaxy had tuned in. News drones orbited safely outside the battle zone, broadcasting every second. Billions watched from homes, factories, mining stations, and orbital cities. No one spoke. Everyone waited. Would history repeat itself? A final communication request appeared on every command screen. "Captain Kane." His calm voice echoed across every fleet. "This is my final request. We seek only safe passage. No hostile action has been taken. I urge the Galactic Council not to make a mistake that cannot be undone." The Council President responded coldly. "You crossed our borders. You ignored our orders. You now stand before the combined military power of the galaxy." Captain Kane sighed quietly. "I know." "Then surrender your ship." For several seconds, there was only silence. Finally, Captain Kane answered. "I'm afraid I can't do that." The transmission ended. Supreme Admiral Zirok slowly raised his hand. Every officer on his bridge understood the signal. Weapons officers placed trembling hands over their firing controls. Warning shot. Target empty space ahead of the human vessel. No direct hit. Make them stop. Fire. A brilliant blue plasma beam erupted from the lead battleship. It streaked across space and exploded several kilometers ahead of the human ship, creating a massive wall of blazing energy. The explosion was so bright that millions watching the live broadcast shielded their eyes. The human ship flew straight through the expanding fireball. When the light faded, it emerged untouched. No shields, no evasive maneuvers, not even a scratch. Gasps echoed across thousands of bridges. Impossible! Back aboard the human vessel, the bridge remained calm. Engineering Officer Hayes smiled. Hull temperature increased by 0.3%. Lieutenant Mira couldn't hide her grin. They really thought that would work. Captain Kane didn't smile. They're scared. Scared people make dangerous decisions. On the galactic flagship, panic spread among the officers. Our sensors confirmed direct exposure. No shield activation. No armor damage. No energy absorption signature. Admiral Xerox frowned. Then how did it survive? Scientists rushed to analyze the data. Nothing made sense. The plasma blast had simply disappeared upon contact with the ship's hull, as if the armor itself had consumed the energy. The elderly historian watching from the council chamber whispered, "They've advanced far beyond us." Suddenly, alarms erupted across every alien fleet. Unknown energy surge detected. Source: the human ship. Thousands of targeting computers instantly locked onto the vessel. Captains shouted orders. Prepare to fire. Full combat readiness. But before anyone pulled the trigger, the human warship emitted a silent pulse. No explosion. No visible weapon. Just a wave of invisible energy spreading through space. Within seconds, every alien targeting system went dark. Missile guidance failed. Weapon locks vanished. Combat AIs rebooted without explanation. Across hundreds of bridges, officers stared in disbelief. My targeting systems are offline. We've lost sensor synchronization. Fire control isn't responding. Panic spread like wildfire. Had they been hacked? Something even stranger had happened. The human pulse hadn't destroyed a single system. It had simply disabled every weapon without damaging the ships. Captain Kane watched the tactical display. Electronic suppression successful. Lieutenant Mira looked amazed. Every hostile weapon in range is offline. Captain Kane nodded. Exactly as intended. No casualties. No permanent damage. The Galactic Council chamber erupted into chaos. They've neutralized 5,000 warships. Without firing a shot. They could have destroyed us. The historian looked around the room. And yet, they chose mercy. His words struck harder than any weapon. For the first time in centuries, the Council realized something terrifying. The lone human warship had been holding back from the very beginning. Then another transmission arrived from Captain Kane. His face appeared once more on every screen in the galaxy. His voice remained calm. You have now witnessed a demonstration of our defensive technology. We have no desire for war. But understand this clearly. If a single civilian under our protection is harmed. He paused. His eyes never left the camera. The fleet you fear isn't this ship. A heavy silence followed. Captain Kane delivered one final sentence before ending the transmission. This vessel was sent ahead to make sure the path was safe. Across every bridge, every council chamber, and every world watching the broadcast, the same horrifying thought took shape. If this unstoppable warship was only the advanced scout, what was the rest of humanity's fleet capable of? For nearly a full minute, no one in the galaxy spoke. 5,000 warships drifted helplessly through space, their weapons disabled by a single invisible pulse. The proud fleets of the Galactic Council had become spectators to a lone human vessel that still had not fired a single shot. On the bridge of the Dominion Spear, Supreme Admiral Xerox stared at the tactical display. Status. The answer came reluctantly. All primary weapons remain offline. Missile systems? Disabled. Targeting arrays? Still unresponsive. Can engineering bypass the failure? The chief engineer shook his head. It's not a failure, Admiral. It's as if our weapons have been given permission to stop working. Xerox frowned. What does that even mean? We don't know. Inside the council chamber, fear had replaced arrogance. Ambassadors who had demanded war only minutes earlier now sat in complete silence. President Valera finally spoke. Can anyone explain how one ship accomplished this? No one answered. Then the elderly historian stood once again. I can. Every eye turned toward him. 3 centuries ago, humanity never tried to build the biggest fleet. They tried to build the smartest one. When every civilization competed to make stronger weapons, humans competed to make war unnecessary. Several ambassadors looked confused. What are you saying? I'm saying, they learned how to defeat enemies without destroying them. Meanwhile, aboard the human warship, Captain Elias Kane received an encrypted transmission from Earth. The holographic image of Fleet Admiral Sophia Reynolds appeared above the command table. Report. Kane saluted. Mission progressing as expected. No casualties. No hostile fire returned. Reynolds nodded with quiet satisfaction. And the council? They're beginning to understand. She smiled faintly. Good. Our objective has never changed. Peace through strength. Before ending the transmission, she added one final instruction. The convoy is approaching. Ensure nothing delays it. Understood. The transmission ended. Lieutenant Mira looked puzzled. Sir, should we tell them? Captain Kane glanced toward the stars. They'll find out soon enough. Hours earlier, far beyond the edge of Council space, an enormous fleet had entered hyperspace. But it wasn't a battle fleet. Thousands of gigantic transport vessels traveled together under heavy escort. Inside them were millions of civilians. Families, children, scientists, doctors, engineers, entire colonies. They were refugees from the Perseus expanse, where a mysterious cosmic disaster had begun consuming entire star systems. Weeks earlier, those desperate worlds had begged the Galactic Council for evacuation. The Council debated, delayed, argued over borders and politics. While they argued, stars died. Humanity did not wait. Earth launched the largest rescue operation in its history. Captain Kane's lone warship had been sent ahead for one purpose: to guarantee that the refugee convoy could pass safely through Council territory. Back in the Council chamber, emergency transmissions suddenly flooded every screen. Civilian emergency signal detected. Source: the Perseus expanse. Images filled the holographic display. Entire planets were being swallowed by violent gravitational storms. Cities disappeared beneath collapsing continents. Orbital stations broke apart. Millions of distress calls echoed across the network. One terrified governor cried, "Please, we don't have much time. Our children. Save our children." The chamber fell silent. President Valera looked horrified. How many survivors? Military analysts answered. Approximately 43 million. And our evacuation fleet? They won't arrive for another 12 days. Another officer interrupted. They don't have 12 days. At that exact moment, long-range sensors detected something extraordinary. Multiple hyperspace signatures. The tactical map lit up with thousands of new contacts. Across every alien fleet, alarms sounded once again. They're here. The human fleet. Admiral Xerox stepped forward. Battle stations. But before panic spread, the sensors completed their analysis. No. The operator whispered. These aren't warships. The display zoomed in. Gigantic transport vessels emerged from hyperspace one after another, stretching across space farther than anyone could see. Medical ships. Supply carriers. Construction vessels. Hospital stations. Food transports. Mobile habitats. Each one escorted by sleek human defense ships that maintained perfect formation without aiming a single weapon. Captain Kane opened one final channel. I told you we came in peace. The fleet behind us carries refugees. If we had stopped at your blockade, He looked directly into the council cameras. Millions would already be dead. The words hit harder than any missile. The council realized the terrible truth. While they had prepared for war, humanity had prepared to save lives. As the endless convoy passed safely through the now silent blockade, alien sailors lowered their weapons in shame. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy understood why humanity had vanished so long ago. Not because they feared the galaxy, but because they had grown tired of civilizations that chose politics over compassion. And as the refugee convoy continued its journey, a new warning suddenly appeared on every long-range sensor. A massive unknown object was emerging from deep space, far larger than any ship ever recorded. Captain Kane's calm expression disappeared for the first time. He stared at the tactical display and quietly said, "That's impossible." Lieutenant Myra's voice trembled. "Captain." It followed the refugees. The bridge fell silent. Every sensor aboard the human warship focused on the enormous object emerging from the darkness beyond the Perseus expanse. At first, it looked like a moon. Then the scans updated. It wasn't a moon. It wasn't a planet. It was alive. The object stretched nearly 4,000 kilometers across, its surface shifting like liquid metal. Thousands of glowing fissures pulsed with crimson light, while massive tendrils of dark energy extended into the surrounding void. Lieutenant Myra's voice was barely above a whisper. "Confirmed visual. It's the Devourer." Captain Elias Kane's expression hardened. So the intelligence reports were true. Across the galactic fleet, confusion spread. Admiral Xerox stared at the impossible readings. "What exactly are we looking at?" Captain Kane opened a secure channel to the Council. "For thousands of years, humanity has protected the outer frontier. The creature before you is Y." The Council President frowned. "You knew this existed?" "Yes." "And you never told us?" Captain Kane looked directly into the camera. "When we warned the galaxy centuries ago, no one believed us." The elderly historian lowered his head. "I remember. The frontier warnings. Everyone else had dismissed those ancient records as myths. Humanity hadn't. Without warning, the Devourer released a wave of gravitational energy. Entire asteroid fields shattered. Several abandoned moons cracked apart like glass. The shockwave slammed into the refugee convoy. Transport ships shook violently. Emergency alarms echoed through every vessel. Civilian ships losing formation. Structural damage reported. Medical carriers requesting assistance. Captain Kane reacted instantly. "Deploy Guardian formation." Within seconds, dozens of human escort ships accelerated around the convoy, creating a massive defensive barrier. Brilliant blue energy fields connected each vessel, forming a protective shield around millions of refugees. The next gravitational wave struck. The shield held. Not a single civilian ship was lost. Admiral Xerox watched in amazement. "They're protecting everyone." His weapons officers spoke quietly. "They're not protecting only humans." The tactical display confirmed it. Alien refugee vessels. Council medical ships. Independent traders caught in the evacuation. Every ship inside the formation received equal protection. No distinction. No discrimination. Only rescue. Xerox took a deep breath. "Transmit to every fleet. Prepare to support the human defense line." One officer hesitated. "Our weapons are still offline." Captain Kane interrupted over the communication channel. "We can restore them." The bridge fell silent. "You can. We disabled them. We can reactivate them." A few seconds later, every Council warship reported the same message. Weapons systems restored. No passwords. No repairs. No delays. Humanity had returned control exactly when it was needed. Captain Kane looked at Admiral Xerox. "Will you stand with us?" The Admiral didn't hesitate. "The Galactic Fleet stands with humanity." One by one, thousands of alien ships moved into formation beside the human vessels. For the first time in over 300 years, the galaxy fought alongside humanity, not against it. The Devourer roared across the vacuum of space. Its energy beams tore through the darkness, capable of destroying entire cruisers in a single strike. Human and alien ships worked together flawlessly. Council battleships intercepted incoming attacks. Human destroyers evacuated damaged vessels. Medical ships rescued survivors without asking which species they belonged to. The battle lasted for hours. Finally, Captain Kane gave the order: activate Horizon Lance. Deep inside the lone human warship, reactors that had remained dormant for centuries awakened. Energy levels climbed higher than anything the galactic scientists believed possible. The front of the ship slowly unfolded, revealing an enormous crystalline emitter. Lieutenant Mira counted down. Charging complete. Captain Kane looked toward the Devourer. This ends today. Fire. A single beam of brilliant white light crossed the battlefield. There was no explosion. No blinding flash. The beam simply passed through the Devourer. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the creature stopped moving. Its crimson glow faded. Its massive body slowly dissolved into harmless particles of light that scattered across the stars. The Devourer was gone. Silence returned to space. The cheers erupted across thousands of ships. Alien crews applauded. Human sailors smiled with quiet relief. Millions of refugees were alive. Entire civilizations had been saved. Several days later, the Galactic Council gathered once more. This time, Captain Elias Kane entered not as a suspect, but as an honored guest. President Valera stood before the assembly. 3 centuries ago, we allowed fear to divide us. We judged humanity by its strength instead of its character. She lowered her head. For that, we offer our deepest apology. The chamber remained silent until Admiral Xerox stepped forward. The red alert has been cancelled. He smiled for the first time. In its place, we issue a new declaration. A massive holographic banner appeared above the council chamber. The Sol Alliance is hereby welcomed as the Guardian of the Galaxy. Every ambassador rose to their feet. The applause echoed through the chamber. Captain Kane smiled modestly. We never wanted to rule the galaxy. We only wanted to make sure there was still a galaxy worth protecting. Outside the station, the lone human warship quietly departed, disappearing into hyperspace without ceremony. It had arrived alone. It left the same way. But this time, it didn't leave behind fear. It left behind hope. And across the galaxy, children would one day learn the story of the day one human warship triggered a red alert, and reminded the universe that true strength is measured not by the wars you win, but by the lives you choose to save.